Good morning. Start your day informed and ahead. Today is Monday, the first day of June. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Cheska Letoncala. We are bringing you the perfect mix of the headlines you need and the conversations that shape your day.
From the news desk to the digital space, well, we have got you covered. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and welcome to Morning Matters. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning. First day of June, first day of our trio.
Yes.
Welcome to
Morning Matters, the new edition.
The new edition of Morning Matters because
yeah.
Pauline has been handling Morning Matters for the past couple of months.
Yes,
also,
and I'm so happy I'm now joined by beautiful ladies,
Naks.
Cheska and Angela, to brighten up everyone's mornings.
So, like what you said, we have got you covered. We have everything here on the plate, from politics to sports, and all the national issues.
Correct.
We got you covered.
And we are going to start your day right.
That's
I
very
hope so.
important.
We hope so. Wag tayo sana mag-ignite ng asar nila. Whoopsie. Because of the hot topics that we're going to talk about.
Because the past few weeks have been quite eventful, to say the least.
That's a nice way.
That's still a nice way of putting
it.
things, but you know, we have to stay on top of things, right? And keep everyone informed. So that's what we're gonna do today.
And let's start things off with politics, as the Senate remains at the center of a growing controversy, from walkouts and heated exchanges to questions over online voting and the resumption of the flood control probe. The chamber has been under the spotlight. On Friday, Senator Jinggoy Estrada posted bail for his graft case, denying the allegations and said he respects the rule of law. Prosecutors accuse Estrada of receiving more than 500 million pesos in kickbacks from flood control projects in Bulacan, an allegation he denies. Meanwhile, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee is set to resume its flood control probe on Thursday under a new subcommittee. But some lawmakers are questioning the timing, with the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte set to begin soon. Meanwhile, President Marcos criticized the recent events in the Senate, from walkouts to the issue of the chamber allegedly sheltering a fugitive from justice. Now, when the president talked, everybody listens.
Of course.
No, so this is a big, kumbaga parang big move, from the president, talking about what happened in the past few weeks in the Senate, most especially because, of course, the Senate leadership through Senate Alan Peter Cayetano maintained that the Senate was allegedly under attack. But here you are, meron kang presidente saying na, 'di ba? Meron palang attack tapos hindi naman pala attack. That's big statement coming from the president. Meaning, 'di ba? He doesn't believe that the Senate was under attack.
He said he was watching in horror, right?
Yes.
Watching all the events unfold in horror. And I think it's also important to note that the president was a former senator. He was part of the upper chamber. So for him to call them out and to criticize the senator.
And there was a comparison.
Sabi niya nung panahon natin, hindi naman ganon. Ngayon namamersonal na.
Exactly. So there was a comparison from their time as senators and from the time now, kung ano nangyayari ngayon, 'di ba? So that's big statement coming from him. And of course, what else can the Senate do to bring back the integrity? Kasi a lot of people are saying, 'di ba, people who are observing with what's happening right now, saying na ano nangyayari sa Senate. It was before, during long time ago, it was the House of Representatives. Ang sinasabihan nila na parang mga crocodiles, walang honor, 'di ba? Walang ganon. But the tables have turned, no? Apparently ngayon with the Senate, with what's happening right now.
Because the Senate as an institution is supposedly carries a lot of prestige, right? It's called it's said to be the last bastion of democracy. And I remember years back, although I wasn't there to live during those times, no, but I heard na, you know, they were very statesman.
You know, ako,
Ikaw pa ata.
even na sabihin na natin hindi pa tayo buhay at that time, no, we would always watch clips, no, from previous Senate leadership na talaga makikita mo, like you have Salonga, you have Tanyada, no, very statement-like. And of course, during the plenary session nila, makikita mo may mga arguments, very intelligent arguments. They're not perfect, no? There were intelligent arguments, there were parang screaming or shouting at each other, but you know, it remains there. No?
Parang yun na nga, like after everything on the floor, magkakape sila.
Yeah, oo. Ngayon kasi 'di ba parang nasigawan ka, mag-file na ng ethics complaint yung nasigawan. So, yun nagkakaroon talaga, hindi mo maiwasan, hindi mo masisi yung mga tao nagkakaroon ng comparison. But right now, today Monday, we'll be also expecting another turn of events, 'di ba, sa Senate, kasi sinasabi nga nila today they're going to be talking about yung pinag-usapan nila na iwan na issue yung online and online participation and online voting. Dahil naging malaking issue yan, nagkaroon ng walkout.
So, like, everyone has very strong opinions about this. So, we're just going to have to wait and see what will happen later.
Exactly.
Panganong episode na ba to ng Senetflix?
Senetflix.
Episode 4,
Ang dami,
episode
no?
5. No, but today also there are rumors of another leadership coup,
Yes, exactly.
Right? So we've been hearing persistent talks about it for many weeks now, but according to insiders, some political analysts, they say that it could happen today. No? 2 members from the majority might move to the minority, but until it happens,
Kaya nga daw yung mga reporters na medyo nagkaka-anxiety na.
Oh, no.
Ano ba, abangan ba
Every
natin yung leadership change or what's going to happen next after that, 'di ba, yung shooting incident?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, we're not just talking about politics here on Morning Matters. Here's another issue we need to talk about, and that is Habagat season, which is now on. This weekend, Pag-asa officially declared the start of the southwest monsoon, signaling the beginning of the rainy season across much of the country. The declaration coincides with the presence of Typhoon Domeng, which has further enhanced the southwest monsoon and brought strong rains or winds and rains to several areas. But here is the thing, Habagat season opens up a much bigger conversation. Every year, heavy monsoon rains expose long-standing challenges many communities, particularly those prone to flooding. Flood control projects, for one, once again come into focus amid ongoing public discussions and investigations into the funding and implementation of flood mitigation efforts. Ladies, if you remember last year, this is the reason why the whole flood control scandal was opened up, right? When several provinces experienced heavy flooding.
Yes.
So,
Konting ulan lang.
here's the thing. This is now the annual reminder of the flood control issues.
I agree.
Because we already know that we are going to see flooding. We are going to see, obviously, problems when the rain comes in. And hopefully, may managot na.
Tama ka. Pero sabi nga nila, diba, the rains are back and so does the memories of flood control project. And the timing couldn't be more appropriate because over the weekend or Friday ba yon, nabigyan ng warrant of arrest, diba, nasampahan ng kaso si Senator Jinggoy Estrada regarding the plunder case, of course, in connection to the ongoing flood control mess, diba? So parang ito na, nagbabalikan na. Diba? But mind you that the Habagat doesn't care of your political alliance, doesn't care about the court dates, diba? Dadating yan sa schedule niya. So I hope, diba, that time na wala pang rainy season, ay nakapaghanda din yung government natin, and also the local government units, doon sa mga rains, mga ulan na paparating dito. Because hindi naman magbabago yun, diba? Malakas ang mga ulan, babahain yung mga kalsada natin, maapektuhan yung mga kababayan natin, sila yung talo dito. So we hope, like what you said, the accountability is there because filing a case is one thing, but conviction is another thing.
Exactly.
And I think the flood control scandal is really the testament to the saying na corruption kills.
Yes.
Diba? Because of what we've seen after all these tragic floods. And what's scarier is, well, for me, what's scarier is that this year kasi walang bagong funding for flood control projects. If you remember the 2026 budget, President Marcos said, no additional funding. The budget that we had last year, ituloy nyo lang yan. So ituloy nyo yung mga projects, do them right, wala nang substandard. Of course, that's up to the DPWH to implement. Ano? So sana naman itong mga contractors natin, gawin ng maayos itong mga proyekto because we're talking about lives here, di ba?
Exactly.
At the end of the day.
These are just not numbers, but lives that we're talking about.
And we see this happen every year. So the thing is, like, okay, we can say na, okay, dispose of your trash properly or ingatan yung surroundings ninyo, kayo maglinis. But at the end of the day, our taxes,
Yeah.
we're supposed to go.
Maniningil tayo.
Exactly.
Oh.
We're gonna talk about taxes later.
Later.
Pala, no?
Ah, wow.
So we're gonna ask our guests also about that. But of course, syempre, ang habagat season, the rainy season, also brings about class disruptions.
Yes.
So,
Oo.
start na rin ang school year, ano? Tingnan natin kung magkakaroon pa rin ng maraming class disruptions and of course the economic blow as well
Yun.
to farmers, drivers,
Yeah.
everyone.
But it's good that you mentioned that because kapag class disruption ang pinag-uusapan mo, you have to remember this is the first time again na magsisimula ng June. Because 'di ba, parang nagkaroon tayo lagi ng diskusyon dito including DepEd and other stakeholders na okay, kapag mainit, hindi makapagklase din yung mga estudyante. Ngayong tag-ulan, binalik natin dito, magkakaroon na naman ng mga, ang tawag dito, magkakaroon na naman ng mga suspension of classes. So, di ba, saan tayo lulugar? So, I think we need more actions, di ba, doon sa mga ginagawa natin pagdating dito sa usapin ng, malaking usapin yan, another topic yan, dito sa schools.
All right, from politics and weather, we now turn to sports, where Philippine volleyball is facing a major off-court controversy. The Philippine National Volleyball Federation is facing a major blow after the Philippine Sports Commission suspended its funding over alleged contract breaches and operational issues. The PSC flagged the PNVF over concerns on national team participation, branding commitments, and coordination in volleyball events. This comes as the FIVB also suspended the PNVF with immediate effect, citing serious governance concerns and alleged violations of its code of ethics. The Philippine Olympic Committee is also expected to suspend the Volleyball Federation in its General Assembly next month. POC President Bambol Tolentino says they will abide by the decision of the International Federation, but will prioritize the welfare of athletes. The issue comes ahead of the AVC Women's Volleyball Cup in Candon, Ilocos Sur, where Alas Pilipinas is set to compete from June 6 to 14. All right.
Ano ba nangyari dyan, Jessica?
Ano ba nangyari? Okay, first of all, let's be real here. The athletes just want to play.
Yeah.
They don't want to be concerned about the politics in sports.
Exactly.
And an athlete's schedule is nonstop. It's training, it's competing, it's a year-round calendar. So the funding that is supposed to go to these athletes, dapat like they're playing for flag and country. They deserve all the support, especially like yun na nga, this coming June 6 to 14,
Yep.
they'll be in Candon, Ilocos Sur for the AVC Women's Volleyball Cup. And right after that, June 17 to 21, Women's Volleyball Nations League. And then all these countries are coming also. Japan, Italy, US, Serbia, Dominican Republic. So this is also on the world stage.
Exactly.
Like we...
Well, I guess what you're trying to say here also is that administrators or administrations may come and go, but of course, yung welfare and success of the
Yes.
athletes should be prioritized regardless, 'di ba, kung sino yung magpapatakbo, etc. 'Di ba? And what makes this controversy kasi very messy is that ang dami, no, yung mga controversies are piling up. Like you have yung national team controversies, you have coach dispute,
Yes.
'di ba? You have leadership dispute,
Yes.
tapos may funding ka pa.
Yes.
So have they released yung mga detailed, yung mga specific violations?
I haven't seen anything yet, but like in terms of the teams, like a lot of the core players from Alas begged off, and then even coaching, Coach Shaq De Los Santos is the interim head coach. But once again, like if you talk about the team, if you talk about the players, they will play. They will do what they can. They will do what they have to for the nation. Because
Yeah, and for me, the last place where people want to see politicking is sports, right?
Yeah.
Because sports should be about sportsmanship,
camaraderie, 'di ba?
It should be about the game,
Raising
the
our
athletes,
flags.
correct. So
and it unites us.
exactly.
Diba? Once we hear that there's a Philippine team competing, all of us Like, let's go Pilipinas.
But one of my takeaways here is it's very good that the athletes are speaking up. You
Yes.
have former Alas Pilipinas team captain Gia Morado speaking out and saying, there needs to be communication between our leaders in especially coordinating the schedules of the national team players, making sure that their schedule aligns with their commercial teams. Kasi at the end of the day, these athletes, those are their livelihoods.
Yeah,
Diba?
exactly.
Playing in the PVL and the Premier Volleyball League. So it's good that they're speaking up. Hopefully the leaders listen so that at the end of the day, no one really suffers. Kasi nga sports po to.
Oo, di ba? So they need to assure also the athletes na whatever
out
we
for
do,
you,
di ba, kayo pa rin yung main priority natin.
Yes.
Di ba? These are just secondary.
Yes.
And we need to do something about this kung may mga pagkakamali o kung may mga, tawag dito, may mga mali dun sa mga
Issues,
leadership issues, yung mga funding, etc. They need to address this soon, di ba? As soon as possible so that our focus will be with the athletes.
All right, don't go away. Morning Matters will be right back after a short break.
Welcome back to our program, Morning Matters. You're still watching here on One News. Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro and U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reaffirmed the Philippines-U.S. alliance during a meeting on the sidelines of the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. The meeting comes as both countries mark the 75th anniversary of the Mutual Defense Treaty. Both officials reiterated their commitment to strengthening defense ties in the Indo-Pacific region, with the United States reaffirming its support for the Philippines' defense interests, including efforts to monitor its exclusive economic zone. The two sides also renew the communications interoperability and security memorandum of agreement for another 15 years, further enhancing secure communications, interoperability, and cybersecurity cooperation between the armed forces of the Philippines and the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. All eyes are on the Sandigan Bayan as it is expected to issue an arrest warrant for the plunder case of Senator Jinggoy Estrada. And for the latest, we now go live to mobile journalist Arles de los Santos. Arles, good morning. What are you monitoring there today?
Huliin ngayong araw nga ay inaasahan natin ang paglabas ng warrant of arrest mula sa 5th Division ng Sandigan Bayan para yan sa graft case at plunder case ni Senator Jinggoy Estrada kaugnay ng kasong isinampa sa kanya ng Office of the Ombudsman para na may kaugnayan sa flood control scandal ng ating pamahalaan. Alam mo Puli na mahalaga itong pag-aabang natin ng arrest warrant dahil itong plunder case si Senator Jinggoy Estrada ay non-bailable. Pero yung graft case na hawak din ng 5th Division ay bailable. So more or less, kung malalabas itong arrest warrant na ito ngayong araw, talagang pwede nang manatili sa kulungan si Senator Jinggoy Estrada at titignan natin kung paano ito mangyayari. Dahil tinitignan natin ngayong Pulin yung tatlong posibilidad na mangyayari. Una ay ilalabas yung arrest warrant ngayong umaga bago magsimula yung sesyon ng Senado. Pangalawa, maaaring ilabas ang warrant at arestuhin si Estrada habang nangyayari ang sesyon ng Senado. At ang ikatlo ay baka hintaying matapos ang sesyon ng Senado at i-serve ang warrant of arrest sa kanya. Pulin, hindi ito ang unang beses na maharap si Estrada sa kasong pandarambong dahil una na itong naharap sa plunder case noong 2001 kaugnay ng Weteng kung saan na-acquit siya noong 2007 at panibagong plunder case noong 2014 kung saan na-acquit siya nitong 2024 lamang pero tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung kanyang 11 charges of grafts sa Sandigan Bayan pa din at ito nga yung pangatlo na kaugnay pa rin ng flood control scandal ng ating pamahalaan.
So Arles, walang indication so far na magsusurrender si Senator Jinggoy Estrada like he did last week doon sa kanyang graft charge?
Wala pang indication yan ngayon, Pulin, kung magsusurrender nga ba ito o isa-serve yung warrant of arrest sa kanya. Ang lahat ng mga posibilidad na ito ay ating binabantayan. Dahil, Pulin, nung Friday, medyo nagkaroon ng kaunting tensyon pagdating ni Estrada doon sa Sandigan Bayan. Bigla kasing sumigaw yung isa sa kanyang mga kasama kahit hindi naman siya itinutulak o ginigit-git ng media at tayo ay nagtatanong lamang. Pero yun, siya yung personal na humarap doon sa Sandigan Bayan para mag-post ng kanyang bail at doon na rin siya kinuhanan ng kanyang fingerprints at ng mugshot pero hindi pa nare-release ngayon mula sa CIDG naman na law enforcement agency na nagsilbi ng warrant of arrest sa kanya.
Well, as you mentioned, Arles, plunder is a non-bailable case. What are the legal remedies available here for Senator Jinggoy Estrada?
Well, by far, Pauline, the legal remedy is that Estrada's camp should file petition for bail at the 5th Division of Sandigan Bayan for him to be able to temporarily have liberty while the case is still ongoing. Aside from that, if he will file a petition for bail, the court will need to weigh in the evidence if the evidence of guilt is strong. If that is the case, the bail petition will be denied. But if the evidence of guilt will not be strong and the evidences will not directly point towards Estrada, he might be able to avail temporary freedom. And of course, this plunder case does not really guarantee that he will be jailed for his entire lifetime. He can still really file a petition for bail that any accused has the liberty to.
I guess that is similar to the case of former Senator Bong Revilla, who is also facing plunder charges but has filed a petition for bail. But Arles, is there any info as to where Senator Jinggoy Estrada will be detained?
That also remains as a question for now, Pauline. We are expecting that Estrada will be jailed at the new Quezon City Jail in Payatas, Quezon City, where his former co-worker or fellow senator, Bong Revilla, is being detained right now, along with the other accused of the malversation case in connection to the alleged ghost flood control project in Pandi, Bulacan. Of course, determiner or might be a game changer for this case, Pauline, is if Estrada's camp will insist that he is a high-profile inmate because he's still a senator and he might invoke his concerns about his security. So there is still a possibility that he will be detained at the PNP custodial facility. But if you remember, Villa wished this to the PNP, but it is the PNP who denied giving him this privilege because they said the PNP custodial facility will be demolished and rehabilitated this year.
All right, well, thank you very much for your reporting. That was mobile journalist Arles de los Santos reporting live from the Sandigan Bayan. Now in other news, former Congressman Mike Defensor has pushed back against plunder and bribery complaints linked to alleged campaign donations for Senator Rodante Marcoleta. In an interview with One News's Political Beat, Defensor described the cases as pilit na pilit, questioning how campaign support could be classified as plunder. He said the complaint has no basis and called it politically motivated.
Actually, Lord, yung case and all these cases, kasi ever since I spoke out in November, sunod-sunod na to eh. Siguro this is the 6th case that I'm faced with. Medyo hindi naman ako nagugulat na hinahanapan nila ako ng kaso. Ang kinakagulat ko, itong recent case namin, in particular kasi parang pilit na pilit yung connection na from a campaign na tulong, donation, biglang naging plunder, indirect bribery, talagang pilit, no? Walang sinabing kung saan ang galing na pera, kung nakaw ba to, walang sinabing pera kung ninakaw ko, walang sinabing pera kung ano yung kapalit. Ano ba yung kapalit nitong tulong na to? So, para siyang pinagdugtong lang. Kasi sabi nila, di ba, plunder, supposedly, di ba, may taxpayers' money. But another case of plunder, sinasabi nila, is private fund. Supposedly, no, hindi naman siya private talaga, kundi may kapalit. Kasi ang sinasite pa nga nila dyan, yung case daw ni ERAP, na it was a case of plunder. But actually, the case of plunder of ERAP was on the tobacco excise tax. Yung nangyari doon sa weteng fund, sabi ko rin nga, kahit na doon yung i-base yan, yun dahil illegal yung weteng. Yung weteng may ginagawang illegal at supposedly ang pinapalabas may proteksyon ng gobyerno. Ito wala ka namang hinihingi kay Senator Marcoleta, kaya ako nabiro doon, Boss Lord, yung kung may nagawa man ako, yung kumain ako ng hopya doon sa opisina ni Senator Dante Marcoleta at kung ito'y kinukonsider nila na isang kaso na may kapalit.
Gawad Kalinga founder Tony Meloto has been arrested in Bulacan over 2 counts of qualified trafficking. Police say the 76-year-old Meloto was arrested Friday at a farm in Barangay Encanto, Angat, Bulacan. The arrest was made by virtue of warrants issued by a regional trial court in Malolos City. The court recommended no bail for both cases. In September last year, the Justice Department recommended the filing of qualified sex trafficking charges against Meloto over an alleged pattern of abuse of authority and exploitation. Gawad Kalinga is a non-government organization known for its poverty alleviation and nation-building programs. Now, the Armed Forces of the Philippines honors its retired and fallen soldiers through its first ever Veteride. More than 200 riders joined the event from Camp Aguinaldo to Libingan ng mga Bayani. And mobile journalist Ray Vicente tells us more in this report.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines Pension and Gratuity Management Center just hosted their first ever Veteride 2026 on Sunday, May 31. AFP said that the event aims to honor the retirees who sacrificed and served the nation.
The reason why we have peace, the security, because someone stood the watch. Someone took care of our security. And this is our way of thanking them and saying, you've done a great job and it's our turn to honor you.
From the starting point at Camp Aguinaldo, over 200 motor riders joined the ride, mainly passing through EDSA to Libingan ng Bayani to honor the departed veterans. Serving of flowers and the 21-gun salute were among the activities.
Where we will do a wreath laying to honor our fallen heroes. I'm very elated to see the outcome of the riders this morning, and we are looking forward for a very successful event. So we had our first veteran in here in Camp Aguinaldo last year in September, and we're looking forward to the second naman sa Davao. So this is one of the many activities to honor our veterans.
Meanwhile, Senator J.V. Ejercito also attended the last portion of the event back at the Camp Aguinaldo, where the riders and living veterans were given an award. The senator also mentioned strengthening the Philippine Army as conflict in West Philippine Sea continues.
Bagamat sila'y retirado na, tapos na ang kanilang serbisyo, pero hindi natin dapat kalimutan na ilang taon din silang naglingkod para pangalagaan ng ating pong seguridad at soberenya. No? Meron tayong conflict sa West Philippine Sea, all the more na pinalalakas natin at pinalalaki natin ang kanila pong budget para naman mabigyan sila ng tamang kagamitan at yung pangangailangan. No? The biggest budget ever for AFP modernization 2026, 40 billion in program funds and another 30 billion in unprogram funds. So,
Veteride 2026 ended with a pinning ceremony for veterans and a silent drill exhibition led by the Philippine Marine Corps. Kapatid Ray Vicente, we are One News.
And when we come back later at 9:30 a.m., political analyst Professor Malu Tiquia joins us live right here in the studio to discuss the latest developments in the Senate. Plus, tax expert Mon Abrea will also join Morning Matters for a timely conversation on middle-class issues and just how heavy taxation is impacting your daily pockets. Don't go away because Money Talks with Kathy Yang is up next to get you ahead of the markets. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Stay tuned to One News.
Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, a hefty fuel price rollback on the first week of June following weeks of price increases. The Bangko Sentral forecasts inflation for May to settle within the 7.1 to 7.9% range. The official data out this Friday, June 5. A conversation on reducing systemic risk in the Philippines with former Deputy Bangko Sentral Governor Diwa Ginigundo. And the Philippines Purchasing Managers Index for May comes in at 50.8. Takes effect tomorrow, Tuesday, after weeks of oil price hikes. DOE Oil Industry Management Bureau Rino Abad says diesel prices could become cheaper by 8 pesos per liter on June 2nd, gasoline by 4 pesos per liter, and kerosene by 10 pesos per liter. The estimates are based on 4 days of trading last week at the Bean of Platte, Singapore. Final figures are expected to be released today. Abad says the DOE and oil companies have agreed to an allowable range for adjusting prices. Analysts warn,
nagpatawag ng emergency meeting si Secretary at siya mismo ang humarap sa mga oil companies at ang naging usapan niya ho ay magkaroon na ho ng allowable range kasi nga definitely yung isang computation does not fit for all, no? Kailangan lang namin ma-maintain ay yung acceptable range na based doon sa kanilang actual importation ng mga cost.
the looming El Nino phenomenon may exacerbate the current energy crisis. Pag-asa already reported a weak El Nino forming during the June to August season and a very strong one from October to November. Greenpeace Philippines campaigner Jefferson Chua tells the Philippine Star El Nino may lead to disruptions in food production systems and an increase in electricity costs. In related news, the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines has issued a yellow alert for the Visayas grid from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. today. That's because of an increased demand and the unavailability of 4 large coal plants. Meantime, the Philippines has received 21,000 metric tons of LPG that the Philippine Oil National Company, or PNOC, ordered from the U.S. The shipments arrived on Saturday in Calaca, Batangas. Cargo contained 50% refrigerated propane and 50% refrigerated butane. Opnoc says the shipments will support the company's emergency stabilization measures. Global oil prices edged up after Israel ordered troops to move further into Lebanon in its fight against Hezbollah, despite an existing ceasefire. As of 8:30 a.m. Philippine time, benchmark Brent crude trading at $93 a barrel, up 2.4%. West Texas Intermediate sitting at $89 a barrel, up 2.8%. Inflation may have accelerated further in May and could have reached its fastest pace in more than 3 years. Analysts polled by Business World see inflation hitting 7.9% last month. They cited elevated oil prices amid the Middle East conflict, higher food costs, base effects, and broader price pressures across the economy. If realized, this would be the highest inflation reading since the 8.6% in February 2023. It would also be a sharp increase from the 1.3% print recorded a year ago. In its month-ahead inflation forecast, the Bangko Sentral estimates May inflation settled within a range of 7.1 to 7.9%. This as higher food prices and a weaker peso continued to push consumer costs higher. If the upper end forecast is realized, it would mark a third straight month of inflation above the BSP's 2 to 4% target. The Philippine Statistics Authority is set to release the official May inflation data on June 5th. Meantime, the government posted a sharp drop in gross borrowings in April on the back of a decrease in domestic financing. Data from the Bureau of Treasury showed total borrowings in April fell by over 66% to 130.2 billion pesos from the previous year. Nearly 94% of the funds came from the domestic market, though domestic borrowings declined more than 68%. Meanwhile, external borrowings for the month rose 48% to 7.9 billion pesos, mostly through project loans. Overall, total borrowings slipped to 1.13 trillion pesos in the first 4 months of the year. This accounts for about 42% of the government's borrowing program in 2026. The Senate crisis, the AI corridor's governance demands, and the need for BSP tightening all hinge on whether institutions discipline or distort policy. Our next guest has, over the past month, published opinion pieces on the Senate crisis, the nation's state of energy emergency, the Luzon AI corridor, and the Bangko Central's dilemma. In each of these, a singular hard truth binds that the real danger is not that the Philippines lacks policy tools, but that power is often used in ways that deepen systemic risk. Let's ask him why and how. Former Bangko Deputy Secretary General, Governor, and current Global Source Partners Principal Advisor Diwa Ginigundo joins us live. It's good seeing you again, DG Diwa. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much, Kathy. And again, thanks for this invitation.
I know, very big issues to tackle. What is a bigger threat now to the economy? Is it external shocks like oil, AI, or the way our own institutions are behaving?
With respect to external shocks, we have very little control. But with respect to domestic issues, particularly political issues, I think we have better latitude in terms of control and management. And for me, you guessed it right, it's institutional issues and credibility of our political institutions. I think those are the issues today.
And that's such a huge assessment coming from a former central banker, using systemic risk in a different way, as we all know, from a central bank perspective. But what exactly do you mean the Senate is now putting at risk in that context?
Well, the Philippine Senate is perceived to be a pillar of stability and and strength of the political institutions. However, when the Senate is perceived to be inconsistent with certain principles of the Constitution, issues about credibility would actually crop up. So credibility as well as loss of confidence may be an issue, and it is becoming an issue. And that could also extend to the Philippine economy in terms of issues about governance, can the Philippines expect or provide stability and long-term viability to investors? And therefore, in the process, investor sentiment is also affected. Social cohesion is also affected. And that is an important consideration in the calculus of our foreign investors as well as domestic investors. So bottom line, are we looking at a long-term economic viability of the economy of the Philippines itself? So those are important issues. So when your political instability and uncertainty become an important factor in the viability of the economy itself, I think systemic risks are generated in the process.
You raise a lot of risks there, Deputy Governor, and one that bleeds through to the economy. Let's pick on some metrics and the concrete economic risks, and say the peso. I mean, we've seen that
Yes.
fall to record lows, that the borrowing costs now on a steepening trend, and on those very investment decisions that your clients are now making.
Well, 3 weeks ago, when the Senate drama started, the peso was doing at about 60, 61 pesos. And as the drama unfolds in the next 2 weeks, we saw the significant depreciation of the Philippine peso. So on that basis alone, we see the strong correlation between politics and even the movement of the peso itself. And you also see that in terms of the risks assigned to the Philippine global bonds, and that is shown in the international capital markets. So those are important considerations, Kathy.
So what then, and how then are you approaching clients overseas when they ask you what's going on? And what are we supposed to do right now, given all the unanswered questions?
Well, what makes the situation different is that the issue goes beyond personalities or partisan disagreements, and they are bound to be they are bound to continue for the moment. However, the situation is not exactly beyond repair or beyond resolution, because if we look at some of the proposal precisely to make sure that the Senate is able to restore credibility, I think there are possible solutions for the Senate to be able to restore its credibility, and it should do it fast. For example, the Senate can always reaffirm constitutional independence, and that is we have yet to see that today, or perhaps in the next few days, in the way the Senate conduct itself. Number two is to ensure transparency, in their leadership, transparency and consistency with established rules. I think the Senate can also avoid actions that could create perceptions of uncertainty and volatility. In other words, if these reforms are undertaken by the Senate itself, that could have positive impact on the economy, on perceptions of risks, perception of instability by both business entrepreneurs as well as investors from foreign as well as from the Philippine economy itself.
Yeah, as you say, it's not beyond repair, but that window is narrowing. If we take a look,
It's fast closing in.
it's fast closing in.
Yes.
If we take a look at monetary policy as a lever, I know that in your column, and this one goes way back 3 weeks ago, Converging Evidence for Monetary Policy Tightening, you did say that the cost of acting late will exceed the cost of acting now, and you called for a rate hike. But how much harder is it for the Bangko Sentral to anchor inflation expectations now, when Congress, particularly the Senate, is sending signals of institutional fragility?
The work of the central bank is even harder today, because while the BSP can provide very decisive forward guidance with respect to interest rate as well as the exchange rate, The other factors pulling it apart is the political noise that we hear from the Senate. So yes, the BSP should continue anchoring inflation expectations, and even the movement of the Philippine peso. Much depends on what the BSP is saying or is telegraphing to the markets. It has little control over what the Philippine Senate is doing at this point. But if the BSP will just continue anchoring expectations and trying to increase public confidence in public policy, particularly on monetary policy, I think it can do its share in helping stabilize the situation.
Well, what does anchoring expectations mean at this point, Deputy Governor? If it delivers a jumbo hike, what kind of a message is that going to send the markets, if not maybe fear or maybe uncertainty?
Well, you got it right, Kathy. The BSP should have started doing it last year. I think my columns would evidence that argument, because even last year there were already signs of risks, upside risks, particularly in the external markets. The policy rates could have been jacked up as early as last year, but instead what we saw was another decrease, another reduction in the policy rate in January. In February, there was a pause because there was an off-cycle meeting, but there was a pause. An off-cycle meeting is expected to show either an increase or a decrease of policy rate. But a pause is something that the markets has difficulty understanding. Okay? And then there was an increase in the subsequent meeting. But at that time, as early as February, the forecast already shows that the average inflation for the year 2026 and 2027 are uncomfortably close to the target already. So in other words, it could have, the BSP could have taken a more decisive action much earlier. But at this time, late it may be, but I think the BSP should just forge on and continue to provide decisive forward guidance that it will take whatever it takes to ensure that by end of 2026 or 2027, the average inflation rate will be restored to the original target.
But that's only half the solution, Diwa. I mean, there's the fiscal policy, the fiscal spend that we've been waiting for, the catch-up spend. Where now and what? And what role, given the institutional crisis that you're seeing in government?
Yeah, you are right there, Kathy. But the fiscal policy is beyond the BSP. What can be done, of course, is coordination of public policy in terms of monetary and fiscal policy at the DBCC, Development Budget Coordination Committee. Yes, the fiscal space is getting narrower and narrower by the months, because fiscal deficit continues to mount and public indebtedness continues to increase. And not only that, as we were explaining earlier, the systemic risk actually comes from a political institution like the Philippine Senate. And the criticism, constructive principled criticism, can provide the Senate the basis for self-correction. And when the Senate decides to correct itself and yields to political opinions or public opinion, then we have some hope that democracy is not dead in the Philippines, and that could also provide additional hope for investors.
I'm going to latch on to that word hope, Diwa. I know you've called the Luzon AI corridor as possibly our last chance for leapfrogging as supply chains and technology shift. But how realistic really is that leap if our political institutions are, in your own words, eroding their credibility at the same time?
Well, that is the biggest challenge, governance, Kathy. But the framework is there. The possibilities and the opportunities are there. It is up to the Philippines to take the challenge and provide order and provide the actual action on the framework that already exists. If we are able to do that, and if the government is able to do that, and show investors, okay, that it is serious in establishing those AI economic corridors from Luzon down to southern Luzon and on to the Visayas and Mindanao, I think we would be able to leapfrog the economy if we continue to adhere to the traditional industries without the benefit of AI, without the benefit of innovation. It will take us many, many years, if not decades, to be able to catch up with Vietnam, to be able to catch up with the rest of the ASEAN 5. What we need is to, what people call, we have to break the mold and allow innovation to be the next layer of industrial policy in the Philippines today. There's no other alternative. No? If we continue to adhere to the old ways of doing things and pursuing industrial policy, we will continue to be in the category of low middle income countries for the last 38 years.
All right, I'm going to hold on to those green shoots and the positives in what you just said, the constructive criticism. Former BSP Deputy Governor Diwa Ginigundo of Global Source Partners, thank you. You're watching
very
Money
much,
Talks.
Beth.
Coming up, Philippine factory activity slightly rebounded in May. And in Taiwan, BTS fans are taking their quest for concert tickets to a higher power. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. A quick check on the Philippine peso as we kick off the first trading day of June. Peso opens weaker, 61.65 to the dollar. It closed last Friday a tad stronger, 61.59 against the greenback. Analysts see the local unit moving sideways this week as traders await clearer guidance on the ceasefire deal between the U.S. and Iran. RCBC Chief Economist Mike Ricafort expects the peso to range between 61.30 and 61.75. Philippine factory activity slightly rebounded in May, driven by improving demand and a rebound in new orders. Data from the S&P Global showed the Philippine Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index rose to 50.8 in May from 48.3 in April. This is just an inch above the 50-point threshold that separates growth from contraction. The improvement was driven by stronger output and a recovery in new orders, with firms also growing more optimistic about production over the next 12 months. Checking in on the markets overseas, U.S. stock futures slightly up in overnight trading as markets enter June at record highs. The Nasdaq is up 0.4%, S&P 500 climbs nearly 0.2%, and the Dow advances less than 0.1%. South Korea's Kospi hits a fresh high, bucking the mixed performance among Asian markets. It's currently up 2%. Japan's Nikkei 225 rises 1/3%, and Australia's ASX 200 falls 0.1%. U.S. markets are closed at records last Friday as investors pinned their hopes in a U.S.-Iran peace deal. The Dow crossed 51,000 for the first time, up 0.7%. Both the S&P and the Nasdaq climbed 0.2%. And a quick check at our own markets. The Philippine Stock Exchange Index tumbled last Friday by 1.5%, falling below the crucial 5,800 psychological support. The markets start trading in less than 5 minutes. Christina Ulang of First Metro Investment Corp says investors are still in search for a strong catalyst to boost sentiment. The 10-year government bond yields ticked down to 7.521% from the previous close of 7.536%. And the latest on the corporate front, Meralco says it is open to working with government regulators and lawmakers and measures to help ease electricity costs. This comes after Akbayan called for a congressional probe into allegedly opaque charges in power bills. Meralco says it supports efforts to reduce rates, but notes generation costs still make up the bulk of electricity bills. Meanwhile, ASEN has secured government-backed revenue support for its Biriwa solar and battery project in New South Wales, Australia. The project won a competitive renewable energy tender under Australia's Capacity Investment Scheme. It will have 600 megawatts of solar capacity and 2,400 megawatt-hours of battery storage. And DigiPlus expects its second quarter earnings to remain stable despite softer consumer spending and regulatory changes. The company says it has taken steps to improve profit margins after a sharp drop in first quarter income. DigiPlus is also preparing to relaunch its Brazil operations and expand to South Africa by 2027. And on a much lighter note, fans of K-pop supergroup BTS are taking their quest for concert tickets to a higher power. In Taiwan, BTS fans, better known as ARMYs, have been visiting Taipei's Bangka Longshan Temple to pray to Ye Lao in hopes of landing seats to the group's upcoming shows in Kaohsiung. Ye Lao is a Taoist god of love and matchmaking. Fans offered purple-themed snacks, BTS merch, concert seat maps, and wish lists at the altar. The trend, which began on social media, is based on the belief that Ye Lao's red thread of fate can connect people to what they are meant to find, including hard-to-get tickets. BTS is set to stage 3 shows in Kaohsiung this November. And that is it for Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. Catch us tomorrow again at 9 a.m., our new time. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a great day ahead. Morning Matters returns at 9:30 a.m.
Good morning. I'm Angela Lagunzad Castro. You're watching Morning Matters here on One News. The Senate remains under the spotlight amid controversies over the flood control probe, online voting, and recent walkouts. Senator Jinggoy Estrada posted bail on Friday before the Sandigan Bayan for his graft case. Estrada denied the allegations and said he respects the rule of law. Prosecutors accuse him of receiving more than 500 million pesos in kickbacks from flood control projects in Bulacan, an allegation he denies. Meanwhile, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee is set to resume its flood control probe on Thursday under a new subcommittee. Some lawmakers are questioning the timing, with the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte also set to begin soon. President Marcos also criticized recent events in the Senate, including walkouts and the chamber's alleged sheltering of a fugitive from justice. So how do these Senate developments shape our country's political landscape? Joining us now is political analyst Malu Tiquia. Good morning, Malu. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. And
Nice
good
to see
morning to your televiewers.
Of course. So with all of what's happening in the past few days, how do you read the current political drama, especially in the Senate?
Well, today is a very hectic, I guess, day for the Senate, simply because you will have a meeting on the proposed amendments of the rules. You will have some movements, if the movements will be real today. The invitation for the Committee on Blue Ribbon will be out today to be signed by the chairperson. And then, of course, today is also the date for the submission of the response of the Vice President on the impeachment.
But I want to go back to the time last week when the minority bloc walked out on the issue of online voting and online participation. What do you think about that? Do you think it's necessary for them to walk out?
Well, in other legislative bodies that is being practiced, I think the only permanent one is in Canada. The rest are seasonal, depending on the urgency of the bill being considered. I think it is very appropriate in the sense that I look at it as a way of continuing the involvement of members in the day-to-day of the Senate, as well as in the House. I understand in the House it's being practiced now for purposes of the quorum because they're having a hard time with the quorum, so they decided to adopt the online participation. I think I would want to push the envelope further by allowing also citizens, if they're going to enact such amendment to the rules, they should allow citizens to participate on hearing online, and then to probably give citizens the 30-day window to comment on certain legislations. That in itself will open, make the whole process transparent. As you probably know, there is a legislative maze. People do not understand how a bill becomes a law. So if they are involved, there's more transparency, there's more accountability of the institution.
But a lot of people are questioning the timing of this suggestion of revising the rules in the Senate of including online voting because in reality, you have Senator Bato de la not present at the moment because of the ICC warrant, and then you have some lawmakers, including Senator Jinggoy Estrada, who is currently facing, cases filed against filed by the ombudsman. So, don't you think yung timing na yun? Do you agree with what people are saying na yung timing ay hindi, kumbaga parang sinasabi nila ay kaya nilang dito ginagawa kasi para yung mga kakampi nila ay makaboto din dahil wala sila dun sa plenaryo.
Angela, if you look at the process that this Congress adopted, previously, in the case of Trillanes and De Lima, it was through resolutions. Today, it's really the amendment of the rules. So medyo ito hindi seasonal, medyo for everyone. Why is it critical? Because you are right that the current majority have some problems, namely Bato, Senator Go could also be facing an ICC. Then you have Senator Chis Escudero, Villanueva, Estrada. No? If you open the blue ribbon, I think there will be 2 or 3 senators from the minority who will be affected. So ito, parang sa lahat na kaya sa amendment of the rules, mas permanent siguro yung amendment na mangyayari. Yeah, I will call it as such, but I don't think you should remove the right of any senator to be involved in the day-to-day, regardless of anong nangyari. Kasi may mandato eh. I am very particular on the mandate of that senator. They were elected by the people and they're supposed to work. If they cannot work, medyo ibalik mo yung sinesweldo mo araw-araw. So, I think that is being fair, and right now we are probably seeing just the impact to the majority. We haven't seen the impact to the minority.
Right.
And the moment that blue ribbon will commence, I think they will value such an amendment.
Well, with all of the things that are happening right now, what do you think about the government's, kumbaga kung ano yung mga ginagawa nila ngayon pagdating sa issue ng flood control projects? Are you happy with the people who are being filed cases?
No, I'm not.
Do you think that they're only targeting the critics?
Yeah, that's a very good question, no? On point. I'm not happy with the way this administration has been dishing out patas, no? Maging patas ka sa proseso, maging patas ka sa kasong fina-file, no? If you look at it, these cases being talked about were cases emanating from the partial report of then Senator Panfilo Lacson. If you remember, there were 3, Subiri, J.V. Estrada, and Win Gatchalian, who withdrew their signature from the partial report because they were questioning bakit mga colleagues daw ang pinag-iinitan. In that report, there was the mention of the name of Escudero, Villanueva, and I think another one, Estrada. So bakit nga ganon? Bakit wala tayong nakikita sa House of Representatives? They're saying there's 26, but there are no cases being filed. Is this part of the agreement because you were able to get 254 signatures for the second impeachment? So Senado na ngayon. So ako, ang gusto ko lang sana maging patas kasi hindi natin nakikita yung fairness in the process at saka hindi rin natin nakikita yung kabuang storya sa flood control.
So tingin niyo po, merong ganun talagang anggulo, maaari possible,
Oo.
na may kasunduan, may agreement, bumoto kayo sa impeachment, di namin kayo sasampahan ng kaso?
Oo. And I think it would be telling if, media is able to interview Senator Estrada, how many times si Senator Jinggoy, how many times he received a call, how many times was he offered, just transfer and we will drop all cases. So, this is probably impeachment at the way the administration would want, but it is important for the citizens, the taxpayers, to also look at the blue ribbon. Kasi yung blue ribbon, trillion yun eh. Nakita na natin yung evidence sa House of Representatives laban kay Vice Presidente Duterte. So, and the trial is there. That's a certainty. Pero yung blue ribbon, hindi natin naintindihan bakit may mga hindi tinatawagan, bakit hindi pinatestify, at bakit nag-issue ng partial report. This is the first time in the history of the Senate when a partial report is made not signed by the majority. So, dapat hindi yun na-deck sa Committee on Rules, hindi na pag-usapan sa plenaryo, pero napag-usapan sa plenaryo. So, malaking question yun, bakit nagkaganon?
Well, 2 things. You said earlier kay Senator Jinggoy Estrada, there were calls made.
Yes.
How did you know about this?
People would often, whenever we start counting and some legislators would probably ask my opinion, yun yung lumalabas na ilang beses tinawagan. Since nung pampanahon na si Senator Legarda ang magiging Senate President, ang daming tumawag sa key people who have issues, no? Tinawagan, wag ka nang bumoto, tinawagan, operan kita ng ganito. Continuous
And
pa rin yung...
no filing of charges. Ganun,
Oo,
cases.
yun yung offer. No, lahat ng kaso, wala. Kung titingnan natin kay Senator Jinggoy Estrada, hindi niya nakita yung complaint ng ombudsman, hindi niya nakita yung complaint ng DOJ, nakita na lamang niya sa public, meron na pala akong warrant of arrest. So pumunta siya sa Sandigan Bayan to surrender. And seriously, that's technically, procedurally, mali yun. Hindi ba dapat makarespond muna siya bago siya arestuhin? Pero hindi nga ganun. At kaya karamihan na nasa anti-Marcos, I will qualify anti-Marcos, hindi opposition, kasi hindi mo na alam kung sinong opposition, lumalabas na may silent martial law na iipitin ka pag hindi nila nakuha yung gusto nila sa'yo.
And yung pangalawa ko before we move forward dun sa survey, Malu, of course, sabi ng mga tao, di ba conflict of interest din yun na kumbaga ang mag-head ng Blue Ribbon Committee, aside from Senator Marcoleta, there are vice chairs also, which is also involved in the flood control projects.
Yeah, but you cannot really be lily-white in a political office. There are certain issues na apektado ka. So wala naman sa rules nila na pag merong whiff of anomaly or whiff of pending cases, huwag ka maging member. So yun, kaya sila na ilagay doon, sila na rin ang nag-volunteer, I want to be a member, or kinuha ni Chairperson Pia Cayetano. So yung right na yun, nasa rules eh. Wala naman nagsabi sa rules na kung may kaso ka, whether preliminary lang yan, hindi ka pwede maging miyembro. Pag nagkaganon, kukulangin ang quorum sa committee.
Yeah. But do you agree with former Senator Coco Pimentel saying na, dahil hindi naman nagkakasundo yung Senado, sabi niya, ikaw na lang ang mag-volunteer bumaba. Sabi niya kay Senator Alan Peter Cayetano.
Alam mo, ang daming mga ex-senator na nangingialam sa current Senado. May right sila dahil nanggaling sila doon. Pero sa tingin ko, yung mga suggestion nila, mas mabuti na mag-suggestion na lang sila para sa ibang bagay kisa dun sa Senate Presidency. Kasi ang Senate Presidency nahahalal dahil sa suporta ng current, ng incumbent. Hindi naman sila incumbent. So mahirap naman yung bibigyan natin ng attention yon. Hindi ako nag-agree kay Senator Pimentel. Kung may boto ang minority, well and good. Kung wala, we still have the 13 as majority.
Well, going to the recent Pulse Asia survey, it shows that Sara Duterte is still ahead of Leni Robredo. So how strong is that, given that there are a lot of issues hounding the Vice President, most especially itong incoming impeachment trial sa kanya?
Well, I'm very happy at the rating of Vice President Duterte simply because after 4 years, you're still 50s. Maganda yon. Yung sa tingin ko dito rin sa stasyon nyo ko sinabi na you need 3 readings to have a trend. This is the second reading na ganong kalapit ang kanilang diferensya. Ako ang tinitingnan ko hindi yung horse races, tinitingnan ko yung demographics eh. Nasaan ang Gen Z, nasaan ang Mindanao, nasaan ang Visayas. Ang natutuwa ako dyan sa survey na yan kasi ang NCR nagpipick up at naglilin towards kay Vice President Duterte. Magandang development yun kasi dati ang NCR has never been for the Vice President. So, I'm happy with that.
But don't you think that their salt the way it is because wala pa naman talagang nagde-declare on the opposition side na kakandidato silang bilang presidente?
True, you're correct. You're correct there, Angela. No, ang nag-declare pa lang si VP. Pangalawa, lahat yan speculative. Yung pairing speculative, no? Makikita mo, may linya rin yung nagpa-commission kasi talagang mine-measure niya sino ang pwede. Right. So, Sa akin, si VP nag-declare na, si VP 4 years na inuuga, si Mayor Robredo, there's nothing that is being said about her. So I think that is a good estimation of the pulse of the people, and we should probably look at future surveys to see if there is a trend.
Well, yun nga, no, habang kinakaharap ni Vice President Sara Duterte itong articles of impeachment na to against him, what do you think there, among those 4 articles of impeachment, ang will hold water or won't hold water?
Sa tingin ko, yung 4 hindi eh. Kasi, maling-mali. Ang basic framework kasi nila, from vice mayor, mayor to vice president. Doon nakaangkla ang SALN, doon nakaangkla ang AMLAC, at hindi natin alam yung BIR. Kasi pag moment na binuksan yan under the National Tax Code, huhulihin, bawal buksan yung mga ganyan. So ilagay lang natin sa SALN, sa AMLAC, maling-mali na yung framework kasi ang impeachable officer, 3 years lang siya.
Right.
Hindi kasama yung vice mayor. So pag inayos mo yan, liliit at lilihit at hindi papasok dun sa conclusion na gusto ng House of Representatives. Yung conditional threat, yun yata yung matindi at ang sabi nila may i-present daw na witness na hinire. So let's see, sa July 6 ang simula ng trial at handang-handa ang defense para to set aside these issues being mentioned by the House.
Well, of course, going back dun sa survey, nakita natin na pagdating sa vice presidential options, we have Senator Erwin Tulfo, you have Senator Bongo, and Senator Robin Padilla. Among those 3, ano yung strength nila? Bakit sila ngayon yung nakikita ng mga tao na pwedeng maging vice president?
Well, sa vice president, si Senator Tulfo, I think already said he is for re-election. But granting your question is really one of his plans, I think Senator Tulfo has always been there for the public. He is a media creation. Nakita, dito sa stasyon yun, nakita kung paano tumulong sa tao. Ang problema, si Senator Tulfo kilala lang sa Luzon, hindi masyado sa Visayas at Mindanao. Si Senator Go, dahil yan dun sa Malasakit Center, no? Continuous yung pagtulong niya, yung pag nasunugan, nandun siya. Si Senator Bongo is residual strength of the Duterte name, no? Makikita natin yan sa buong campaign races na na kasama siya. Parating nagtatap o nagpe-place dahil sa Duterte. Si Robin Padilla, malaking bagay yung pagiging artista niya. Malaking bagay na siya lang yung Muslim sa Senado. Malaking bagay na kahit hindi siya abogado, continue siya sa advokasya niya ng Parliament at Federal. At kung titingnan mo si Senator Robin Padilla, although minimenos dahil artista, dahil mali-mali daw, tingnan niyo ho ang kanyang record, attendance record, that's one, at saka yung bills filed and became a law. Marami at masipag si Senator Padilla. So, si Senator Padilla represents Luzon, of course, VARM, Mindanao. Mahirap na Vice President kung Vice President kay Inday Sara kasi pareho silang taga Davao, although may Batangas. Si Tulfo is essentially NCR and Davao. I mean, from Quezon City to Davao. So, may mga kanya-kanyang baluarte yung tatlo.
But I think yung survey dito, tinutukoy nila si Senator Erwin Tulfo. And yun yung tinutukoy nila dito. But of course, before I let you go, can I ask you also, because Alan Herman was asked if he could rate how Yusek Claire Castro is handling all the...
Si BFF ko, okay.
Your BFF, di ba? 9.5 ang binigay ni Alan Herman. The way she handles everything, no? Yung pagsagot niya sa mga tungkol sa palasyo. What is your rate?
Ano yan, 1 to 10?
1 to 10 being the highest.
Siguro 5.
Bakit 5?
5 dahil hindi naman siya, alam mo, ang spokes dapat nagsasabi ng totoo.
Do you think she's lying?
Factual. Oo.
She's
Madalas siya naglalaying. Ano ba naman ang ending niya? Parati ang sinisisi Duterte sa lahat. Kung titingnan mo siya, kung gagawa ka ng series of videos, parati ang default niya, kasi Duterte, o ito si Duterte, etc. Hindi siya nakakatulong sa Pangulo para palabuanan o sabihin sa taong bayan ang mga proyekto niya. Hindi nakakatulong sa pagkaklarado. At lalong pag nakikita mo ang taong bayan na naaasar. Kasi nga, madulas sa pananalita at propagandist.
Okay, sige. We have a lot to unpack, but unfortunately, we don't have much time. But thank you so much for dropping by, political analyst Malu Tikia. Now, don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break.
Welcome back to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day.
Well, at this point, let's check the situation at Camp Crame after Senator Jinggoy Estrada posted bail last week. And we have our mobile journalist, Jazz Paredes, reporting to us this morning. Hi, Jazz. Expected ba na pupunta si Senator Jinggoy Estrada dyan ngayong umaga?
Magandang umaga. No? Pauline, sa ngayon ay wala pa tayong natatanggap na balita kung ine-expect ba natin si Senador Jinggoy ngayong umaga dito sa Philippine National Police sa Camp Crame. Pero kanina sa katatapos tamang na press briefing ay napag-usapan kung ano nga ba yung mga posibleng aksyon kung lumabas man yung arrest warrant for the plunder case of Senador Jinggoy Estrada. So ito raw yung tinitignan natin na posibleng mangyari. Ayon kay CIDG Director Alexander Morico ay oras lumabas daw itong warrant of arrest ay implement agad daw ito, no? Pero ayaw nilang mag-assume or presume na lalabas itong ngayong araw. Pero ang tinitingnan daw nating proseso ay dadalhin daw dito sa loob ng CADG for profiling and yung booking, and yung after nito is yung turnover to the issuing and court sa Sandigan Bayan, at sila daw magde-determine kung saan ba siyang law enforcement agency or saan man siya dadalhin for detainment. Sa ngayon daw wala pang specific instruction, pero kanila daw susundin at i-honor itong mang ilalabas ng korte na paano yung kanilang implementation. Pero kanina napag-usapan din kung sa kagaya ng nangyari kay Senador Bato de la Rosa, if lumabas man yung arrest warrant, ay aarestuhin ba siya sa loob ng Senado? Although hindi tayo direktang sinagot kung ano ba yung kanilang magiging aksyon. Ang sinabi nila is pa-follow nga nila yung ilalabas na implementation ng korte. Pero ang kanilang naging sagot kanina, yun nga ang kanilang, if mas mababa sa 6 years, yung tinitignan natin, yun daw isusundan nila, i-inform lamang daw ang senador na yung kanyang arrest warrant. Pero kung mas mataas sa 6 years, hindi man direktang sinabi, pero ang pagkakaintindi natin ay i-implement nila ito kahit nasaan man ang senador.
And Jazz, mayroong press con today. Ano ba yung natalakay na dyan so far?
Yes, Polino, ilan din sa mga napag-usapan yung naging focus crime incidents for this month, which is mas mababa compared to last year, no? So last year meron tayong 2,859 na focus crime incidents, at ngayong 2026 ay mas mababa, so 2,149 na lamang ito, na nasa 25.77% yung binaba. And kung ikukumpara doon sa mga nakaraang buwan ngayong taon, from January up to present, ay bumaba daw ito. So ito yung pinakababa nating focus crime incidents for this year or half of the year. At kaugnay din yan, meron tayong 6,621 arrested individuals for the half of the year, at overall 614.5 million na seized drugs during their operations. At ang napag-usapan din yung ating magiging deployment for the Balik Eskwela. Siyempre, pinag-ahandaan na rin yan, lalo na ang Brigada Eskwela na for this week. So ang kanila daw tinitignan na deployment ng kapulisan is 28,751, while for other units are 4,079, and force multipliers 20,677 personnel, with a total of 55,507 in preparation for the Balik Eskwela.
All right, well, thank you very much for those updates. That was mobile journalist Jazz Paredes reporting live from Camp Crame.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte's lawyer is asking the International Criminal Court, or ICC, to order another medical examination to determine whether Duterte is fit to stand trial. Duterte's counsel, Peter Haynes, said the earlier medical assessment of the 81-year-old former president was limited to the pre-trial stage. Haynes said the ICC trial chamber has a continuing obligation to reassess Duterte's fitness to stand trial either every 120 days or upon the request of a party. The defense argues that a trial cannot be fair if the accused is unable to meaningfully exercise his procedural rights because of his health condition. Duterte is facing crimes against humanity charges before the ICC over his war on illegal drugs when he was Davao City mayor and later president. The ICC has set the start of Duterte's trial for November 30, 2026.
Ginebra and TNT are headed for a Commissioner's Cup Finals rematch. Meanwhile, the 2026 Palarong Pambansa wraps up with NCR still on top. Mobile journalist Denise Valdez Sancho has the details.
It's official. Barangay Ginebra and TNT Tropang 5G are headed for a highly anticipated rematch in the PBA Commissioner's Cup Finals. Barangay Ginebra punched the first ticket to the championship round after taking down Rain or Shine 118-107 in Game 6 of their semifinal series at the Inara Sports Center. Justin Brownlee led the Gin Kings with 31 points and 15 rebounds as Ginebra closed out the Elasto Painters and avoided a do-or-die Game 7.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, we didn't want to play a Game 7 against a Yangyao team. That would have been a disaster for us. And so we put all our eggs in one basket and went after this game tonight because we didn't want to play a Game 7.
Meanwhile, TNT Tropang 5G booked its place in the finals after edging Meralco 97-94 in their Game 6 of their semifinal series. Jordan Heading came up with big 30 points, including 7 three-pointers, to lift TNT to its 5th straight PBA Finals appearance.
Again, it was just a reminder in the huddle that I told the players, hey, we've been here before. We know how to play without an import, and that's what it's going to take to win this game.
The best-of-7 final series between Ginebra and TNT gets underway on June 3, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. The 2026 Palarong Pambansa officially came to a close on a Sunday in Agusan del Sur. The National Capital Region once again proved its dominance in the Palarong Pambansa, capturing its 19th straight overall championship. NCR finished the week-long competition with 91 gold, 71 silver, and 71 bronze medals to top the medal standings. During the closing ceremonies, Quezon City formally accepted hosting duties for the 67th Palarong Pambansa, bringing the country's premier student sports competition back to the National Capital Region in 2027.
But I would like to assure everyone kung lahat ng mga manonood natin nakikinig sa atin ngayon, our Quezon City Palaro will be very special and unique.
Preparations are now underway as Quezon City gets ready to welcome thousands of young athletes from across the country next year. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho, we are One News.
Coming right up, tax expert Mona Brea joins us live right here in the studio to discuss the growing tax burden everyone is facing. Stay tuned to Morning Matters.
Good morning and welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News.
Filipino taxpayers are feeling the growing weight of the country's tax system as various national and local taxes continue to apply to income, goods, and services. This includes income tax, value-added tax, and excise taxes on fuel, alcohol, and other products. In recent years, public discussions have also highlighted the high cost of concert tickets and other live entertainment events. One key reason for the wide range of taxes is the government's heavy reliance on tax collection to fund public services and development projects. Beyond revenue generation, taxes also help regulate economic activity and maintain fiscal stability, supporting long-term national development and government operations.
All right, and joining us to break down the country's tax system and its impact on Filipino taxpayers is Asian Consulting Group Chief Tax Advisor, Mr. Mon Abrea. Good morning, Mon.
Good morning.
Good morning. Do we have enough time to break down the tax system?
Oh my gosh, this is a topic that Mon is very passionate
Yes.
about, that when we should also be passionate about because
Reducing tax, not taxing people.
exactly.
Not
Okay,
taxing
more.
but I wanted to start with the basics, Mon. No? How would you describe our tax system?
Too complicated and I guess too much. So it's really first world taxes.
Yeah.
If only it can be used properly, maybe we will not be discussing this.
And I remember you always say and emphasize that Filipinos are overtaxed but underserved.
Yes, because supposedly, as you mentioned earlier, taxes are supposed to fund the government so that they can deliver public services. And you know, public services is equal to public goods, meaning we should not be paying extra. We should be subsidized. And these are healthcare, education, public transportation, infrastructure, things that we don't really see much, but should be funded by the government.
Yeah, and you've said this, everyone says this, that, Filipinos are usually one sickness away from being bankrupt or, indebted for such a long time. So with the current tax system in the Philippines, is it still appropriate for today's economic conditions?
Well, that's why we are proposing already to revise again our personal income tax. Because as you mentioned, no matter how much we earn, a huge part of it is going to taxes. And what we want is for the government to consider increasing our take-home pay without taxes up to 1 million pesos. Because, the beauty of train law, it has reduced the burden in 2018. It's already 2026. So I think we have forgotten, our lawmakers have forgotten that they did not index it to inflation and everything else. So right now, it's no longer that updated. And if we wait again for another legislation, etc., so it will take forever. So what we want is a one-time adjustment that from 250 to 400, 800 to 1 million in one law. So that we don't need to keep asking the Congress for mercy. Because to me, it's not just a relief. It's a way to give, to end the injustice that the government for the longest time relied on our middle class. It's not the middle class relying on the government.
And you've been very busy. You were in Australia just a few weeks ago, and you're leaving for Paris tomorrow. But can you briefly walk us through the 2026 Philippine Investment Mission across Asia, Australia, Europe, Canada, and the U.S.? So what is the goal of this initiative, and how will it benefit the Philippine economy?
With all this political noise and all our foreign investors are definitely updated on the headlines on all this circus and dramas in Senate, in Congress, we want to reassure them that economic and tax policies are stable and that we continue to improve ease of doing business. And that's why I also do all these interviews, because while we criticize the system, while we propose improvements, we also acknowledge that there are several progress already. Like 10 years ago, we would have been talking about more problems, but now we started the digitalization, the ease of doing business, and we want to reiterate that to our foreign counterparts. So more than just promoting the Philippines, we want to build that long-term relationship that even in the change of administration in our next presidential election, they can trust that business as usual, not the corruption, but investments will be in good hands because Filipino people are worth taking the risk.
Well, speaking of corruption, Mon, you just got back from Vietnam, from Australia. What are investors saying about the instability that we are witnessing here in the Philippines?
Well,
Political instability.
well, they're actually concerned why all these things are happening. Again, especially even the New York Times, the CCTV of Senator Bato running, etc. So they're just wondering how, with all the problems that we have with the global crisis, why is this happening? And then we tell them that, that's also the price of democracy. And we have to pay and we need to learn as well, so that in our next election, hopefully, we'll be making better decisions. But what is surprising is from the previous administration to the current, there are several good laws that were legislated, which means the collaboration from us, from the private sector, from the media being the watchdog, we were able to push good laws. Unfortunately, we were not able to elect good lawmakers. But despite that, we were able to pass ease of paying taxes, ease of doing business, create more. And this is what the investors would like to know. Not just the headline, but the long-term impact and policies.
So despite all the political issues we're seeing, these are not turning off investors?
Because it's not an isolated case. I'm flying back to US, so hello, welcome to the Trump world. There will be another set of political issues. It's not that this is only happening only in the Philippines. Of course, the amount of corruption is really disappointing and really overwhelming, but it doesn't make us like only the only country that is dealing with all this crisis or political crisis.
And since we are being taxed in every breath we take, you've also proposed a 1 million peso income tax exemption now for the middle class. What problem is this trying to address, and how would it be implemented?
The emergency power is supposed to suspend excise, and the lawmakers are also proposing to suspend the VAT. These are very populist. You know why? Our national debt, as we speak, is at 18 trillion pesos. Almost 30% of our national debt, or of our national budget, is used to pay our debt. So paikot-ikot na siya. Utang pa more, then the budget will pay the utang and the interest and all. So what we're saying is, if we suspend excise and VAT, there will be more debt coming. We might breach 20 trillion utang. So what we're saying is, if you want to help the middle class, because the poor definitely subsidy is what they're giving, but they're not contributing to income tax. The middle class are paying income tax. Whether there's a crisis or not, whether the government help them or not, they will pay income tax. If our politicians are sincere in saying, let's empower, help the middle class, it's not suspending VAT or suspending excise. It's increasing their take-home pay. They work hard. They make good money. Why don't we give them the money without taxes? Let them decide whether they want to spend it, save it, invest it, or travel. So we have to abolish the travel tax kasi they're still, because of the drama, it was supposed to be prioritized. They haven't passed the travel tax. It has passed the Congress, but got stuck up in Senate. So what I'm saying is, if we increase the take-home pay or the exemption to 1 million, imagine the increase from 4,000 probably to 12,500 per payday. A lot of people in social media are saying, Mon, even 1,000 pesos will help us a lot to pay our utang and all. You deserve more than that because it's your hard-earned money. And that's what we're asking from the government. We're not asking from the government for a relief or for a subsidy. We're asking for the government to let us enjoy our hard-earned money. Anyway, they cannot naman spend it properly, then give it to us na lang. At least we can take care of everything.
Because now the threshold is 250,000
pesos.
So if we...
And that is 2018. That was implemented 2018.
8 years ago. So now if you raise it to 1 million, that would mean a bigger take-home pay for a lot of Filipinos. And I believe you have this data also showing that a lot of the tax collected by the government comes from 80% of the middle class.
To be exact, 82%.
82%. And professionals only contribute
4%. The high net worth individuals are only paying. Why? Because for the employees, it's forced. It's withheld at source. While for the high net worth, for the professionals, it's voluntary. So obviously, they don't volunteer enough. So we can't expect honesty. We need a system that will really force people to pay the right taxes. And for the government, not to rely on our employees because that's exactly what the data shows for the longest time.
But with this proposal, Mona, no, that would mean revenue loss for the government.
Wow, speaking like a DOF. Whenever they ask that, I'm ready. Okay, yes.
I know you are. No, kasi, of course, revenue loss. Then the government will now be looking for other ways to tax
Definitely.
us, right? So how do you propose they make up for this loss of revenue?
One of the things we've studied at Duke during my time for global tax policy program is the government should not just be looking at how much to tax or how much to collect, but also who are you collecting from. So if we give this 1 million tax-free to every working class or every Filipino, whatever revenue loss, let's say 1 trillion, that's exaggerated, but assuming 1 trillion, we can readily get it from the unexplained wealth of those in Congress, of those in government. Why? Because rather than passing another law they call wealth tax, which might not be able to collect without, you don't have the data, there's a bank secrecy, we need to force the government to lift the bank secrecy. But maybe they will not lift the bank secrecy because they don't want to expose their bank accounts. Then we ask now BIR to issue letter of authority to all members of Congress and Senate, because we can collect as much as 1 trillion pesos by just looking around. All properties are owned by politicians. If only there is a data that will really show, I mean, if somebody will have the courage to share it on social media, how much every politician and political dynasty has accumulated wealth in the last 2 decades. The wealth of this country are already cornered or accumulated by those in public service. So how come? So now it's time to collect that. There is a provisionary tax code. Any unexplained wealth is a prima facie evidence for tax evasion. So we will not just collect taxes from them. They can be perpetually disqualified. So that next election, they're no longer in the ballot. So we will not make much mistakes. They're out of the options.
Yeah.
So that's what we want. If they don't want to lift the bank secrecy, we ask the BIR to issue audit to audit all unexplained wealth. And that will generate whatever revenue loss, which will be for the Filipino people. So imagine, corruption remains the biggest revenue loss.
Yes.
With that alone, I don't think Malacanang should think further.
Are there any other ways to close the gap? Because as regular citizens, we are so diligent in getting our 2307s, our 2303s,
filing our ITRs, making sure we beat the deadlines.
Exactly. And then, as you mentioned, the corruption, the loss of income for the average Filipino. Like, what are the other ways that we can close that gap and make life easier for the hardworking Filipinos?
Well, honestly, the first is really to broaden the base, because right now we have 118 million population. And Cheska Puli, I don't want to shock you, but there are only 20 million registered taxpayers. So what happened to the rest? Are they ghosts? Babies? So there's really a problem with the data alone. We don't really use data analytics to really audit and collect from the right people. We are just complacently relying on those who are paying. So those who are not paying, bahala na kung mahahabol sila or hindi, which is very wrong. At the same time, we've been passing laws like why I did not support the 12% VAT on digital services, because they say they want to collect from the tech giants, but in the end, it was passed on us because it's a VAT. It's an indirect tax, so all our subscription fees increased by 12%. So to whom are you collecting from? From Meta, from Amazon, or from Filipino subscribers? It's a consumption tax. So sa atin pa rin kinolekta. That's why one of our proposals, which I will also be discussing to Malacanang, is the OECD Global Minimum Tax. Let's really collect from the large multinational corporations who are profit shifting. Dinala sa Ireland, sa tax haven. Then the Philippine government do not collect any taxes. As in zero. Tapos tayo mga manggagawa, walang choice. We keep paying. If employees ka, withheld that source. Nakaltas na bago mo pa matanggap. So what we are saying is, there's no problem in collecting revenues. I think all governments naman around the world. But if you keep collecting on the same people and you keep increasing the burden and you don't give anything back, I think that's a huge injustice. So while these politicians who have accumulated unexplained wealth, they remain free from any accountability. That's why it's also a call to modernize BIR and customs, because it's becoming performative. They will just say they sue, they file charges on this, but they all run in the next election. They continue to accumulate ill-gotten wealth, and nobody is paying the consequences of it. While tayo takot sa penalty. Maliit lang ng 1 hour, di ba?
Late fee.
Late fee. So we want to modernize it to the point that it will not really discriminate who you are or your position, whatever. If you did not pay taxes, then you will have to pay the penalties or face the consequences of it.
Okay, now, Mon, what are your thoughts on other taxes that could be reduced, reformed, abolished? Earlier, Cheska was reporting about how there are taxes even in concert tickets. Diba? Pati ba naman yung things that Filipinos could enjoy, tinatax din.
I mean, people say na it's cheaper to watch concerts in Japan or Singapore, so they just make a trip out of it as compared to buying concert tickets here.
Yeah. I think one is, as you mentioned, is the value-added tax. We can reduce it to 10 since 12% is the highest rate in the ASEAN region, while Singapore, Vietnam is only 8%. Ang problem kasi dun is our collection efficiency is only 35%. So ibig sabihin, we keep imposing taxes but not everything is really collected. So talagang may leakage na hindi na-address. And aside from that, we have several VAT exemptions. You know, this is not the first time that I will say this, but we support the benefits that are given to our senior citizen and PWD, but it's being abused. Number one, PWD IDs are issued by LGUs, so it's becoming a vote buying mechanism or political patronage, because you can just say you are broken-hearted or you broke your ankle and you can get PWD. There's no database, there's no system that will really make sure it will not be abused, or even for restaurants to verify whether the ID that's being presented to them is valid or not. Same with senior citizen. If you live in Forbes, you spend more. Therefore, you get higher discount, higher exemption. But again, I will use my mom. If my mom lives in Pampanga, she goes to wet market, she doesn't spend so much. So, wala siyang masyado na-avail dun sa VAT exemption. Why can't we just give them a pension? Like in the first world country. Anyway, we are used to taxing first world taxes. Why don't we just give pension or direct health card to our PWDs or senior citizen, diba? I mean, that's why we have PhilHealth, SSS Pag-ibig. Anong silbi ng mga to? Dagdag contribution din. And that's my point. In the Philippines, there's a long list of taxes and other fees. Pero pag services, it seems you don't know where to look for it, diba? You need the contact of the mayor, the congressman. We have to end that.
Well, as a PWD ID.
Yes.
No, but that's true, because we do need to submit an entire list of requirements, but also the notebook kailangan din ipakita, di ba? But yes, there are benefits to having the PWD ID, but there's also another discussion to be had about like the bureaucracy and the red tape that people have to go through.
Correct. And let's not forget that if there's no mechanism to monitor it, it's subject to abuse. Both parties, whether those who are claiming to be PWD and those entities who are recording their sales as if it was given to PWD or senior citizen. There's no way to verify, so anybody can abuse the system or the law.
Well, I guess in closing, Mon, Filipinos are clearly frustrated when it comes to our tax system, right? But there's also that feeling of resignation na parang wala naman tayong magagawa, we can't really change things, that's how things already work. But how can Filipinos amplify their voices, particularly the middle class, when it comes to all these changes that must be done, implemented in our tax
Well,
system?
number one, I appeal to our public, especially the middle class. Let's not go low, and too emotional about it. Let's work on the facts, the information. Like what I've said, we don't need to defend ourselves. 82% of personal income tax contribution is really from middle class, from employees, period. We don't need to criticize or hit one another below the belt or attack personalities. Let's focus on the issue and use the data, because that's the only way we can push for a better policy. You know, in Australia, in one of the forums there, I highlighted that around the world, economic and tax policies is as good as our relationship with our government. If we let these if we let these policymakers lie to our faces and come up with the laws that they don't even understand, then we will be the victims. But if we work with them, share our expertise, give our insights, then we expect a better policy. And that's why these discussions are important. I know Malacanang is listening to us right now. It's important for us to let them know what we feel, what we think, and whether we are really getting the services that we deserve. Because we're paying taxes.
Exactly.
We deserve better.
Pahaba lang, Mon, are you optimistic Malacanang will listen and could include this proposal to raise the threshold to 1 million pesos in their LEDA?
Yes, maybe not a million, but maybe 2 million. No, what I'm saying is yes, very much positive. Not just that, even the OECD global minimum tax, and I won't deny it. I am in communication with a lot of our government officials, so I'm not just like a voice in the wilderness crying out loud for attention. No, we've been studying it. Our expertise is really on tax policy, and we've been meeting our international counterparts in Paris. I'll be meeting with OECD experts. So this is not like something that we just hope that they will listen to. I think they are listening, and it's a matter of time. And maybe because of Morning Matters, it will matter.
Wow. Thank you so much. But again, thank you for joining us here today. We know you're very busy and you're flying out tomorrow. So thank you for your time and insights. Asian Consulting Group Chief Tax Advisor Mon Abrea. We'll be back after the break. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News.
All right, and thank you so much for joining us on our first day of the new Morning Matters. That is it for today's news. But before we go, I have to ask, what are your key takeaways from today's stories?
My takeaway is that we have a giant coffee bar here with us. But quickly, before anything, of course, we want to say thank you to
Brewlogy
for sponsoring our coffee this morning to keep us energized, right?
Starting the day right. We need coffee.
Basta ako, bayanan ko yung mangyayari sa Senate today.
Oh, yes.
Doon ang action.
Yun ang
Teka,
inaabangan natin.
Senate. Dali natin to sa Senate.
Abang tayo sa labas. Hello! What's going on today?
Yeah.
But the discussions, again, with Sir Mon Abrea, at the end of the day, we all just want to see our taxes working for us.
Right.
The way we work for the taxes.
Exactly. Hopefully this proposal to raise the threshold to 1 million pesos will get passed, because that would really benefit a lot of middle-class taxpayers, including us.
Yes. Of course, kasi for the longest time, hindi naman talaga napapansin ng mga middle class pagdating sa mga ganitong usapin, di ba? So it's high time because we pay our taxes, di ba? On time, all the time. So dapat pansinin din tayo, gumawa ng mga programs that will benefit us. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
We hope we've given you just the right start to your morning. I'm Cheska Leton-Calao.
Let's make the day matter. I'm Pauline Verzosa.
Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides,
all the time.